Hey
Brilliant.
everybody, it's Julianne from Cary Quilting Company in Cary, North Carolina. Today I have the pleasure to be interviewing a pattern designer that I found actually on Reddit. Her name's Kayleigh Renouf. Is that the way you say your last name?
Renouf. It's a very common name in Jersey, which is where I'm from,
Oh,
in England.
okay.
Yeah.
She is from the UK, which we'll hear more about, and she is the pattern designer behind Koi Pond Quilts.
Yes.
And her patterns are amazing. And if you enjoy foundation piecing, or if you want to learn more about foundation piecing and how she comes up with her patterns, now is a great time to tune in. So welcome, Kayleigh.
Thank you for having me.
Now
Very
tell
honored.
us, it's daylight here, but it's nighttime there. I think we're 5 hours off.
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock and very cold outside.
Oh, we've got
Yeah.
rain here today, but we're in the southern part of the US, so it's usually not that cold here.
I'm very jealous of your weather.
Well, I found you on Reddit, just on the quilting subreddit. You put up this great pattern of a balloon animal dog that is a quilting pattern. And I had to dig deeper and figure out where it came from and who you were. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I own Koi Pond Quilts on Etsy. I started sewing probably quite early on. I was probably about 7 when my mum sat me down and well, she tried to sit me down and teach me how to hand sew a quilt. It was like basic blocks. So I learned how to do that, and then kind of didn't do a lot of sewing for a little while. But the first real thing I actually made was the thing I still put my pins in today, a little turtle. I think I was about 8 and I still have it 23 years later. So he's still my companion, which is very nice. I didn't really start quilting until about 6 years ago. I was in London, away from home, and I made a very good friend called Anne. And she introduced me to quilting, and it was one of those things that I'd always wanted to try, but I didn't really know how, and I'd never met anyone who did it to teach me. So as soon as she was like, "Oh, I know how to quilt," I was like, "Tell me everything." And then we kind of just went from there, and I've just every day since, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever been to Liberty of London?
I haven't. So I've now moved back. I live on a small island in the Channel Islands between England and France. I moved back recently, and it was only when I moved back, I think I realized what an opportunity I'd missed. I was like, oh no.
I got to go in 2016, and my husband and I were visiting England at the time, and he just found a soft, comfy chair and said, just come back and find me when you're done, which was hours later. So that's like every American's dream, is to go to England and go to Liberty of London. So if you ever get back to London, you should definitely.
I will.
So how did you figure out how to start making foundation patterns, and what kind of spurred you in that direction? Because that's not the easiest form of quilting.
No, it wasn't. I think I'm one of those kind of people who I dive into things wholeheartedly, and I think I kind of make things a bit difficult for myself. Sometimes I don't always go the easy route, but my wife bought me I have a book here, Adventures in Paper Piecing and Design, as a birthday gift one year, and I completely fell in love with it. I would totally recommend it, because it does tell you a little bit about how to do it like manually on like paper, so like anyone can kind of design something. And once I had that epiphany that I could do anything, I could make anything into a quilt. I was just completely besotted with that. I was like, wow, literally anything could be a quilt. I'd always thought, oh, it has to kind of be, I don't know, quite traditional,
Right.
And I love those. They're gorgeous, gorgeous heirloom quilts. But yeah, once I realized anything could be a quilt, it opened up a whole different world that I didn't even know existed, kind of thing.
Right. I sort of feel the same way with my portrait quilts. Like, wow, I can take a picture and turn it into a quilt. Well, that's a cool way to do a quilt. So I feel the same way.
I'd never, when I saw your quilts, it was just another world that I'm now going to have to open. So when your book comes out, oh, first in line.
So do you have a graphic design background or a love for math? Like, I feel like creating patterns is not for everybody, especially your patterns that have thousands of pieces.
No, they're not the easiest. I work in data, in like big data, so I think it kind of it does kind of lend itself to a bit of an analytical mind. I think the just the ordering and that kind of stuff, and to see the shapes that could be there,
right?
Yeah, well, so that profession helps.
Yeah, yeah. And that is the koi pond quilt there behind you. Is that one of yours?
Yeah, so I've got this one. This is
oh wow, that's big. It's hard to tell how big they're going to be when you see them, you know, as patterns. Oh, that's so pretty. I love the flowers.
Yeah, I make them big because otherwise it seems mean.
Yeah.
With all the little pieces. So the bigger that you make them, the
here it is.
Yeah, the easier it is. But I do offer, most of my patterns come in like multiple sizes, because I like to give as much flexibility so people can be creative as well. Some of the best things, the most rewarding part, I think, is creating a pattern and being like, they'll definitely use it that way. They'll definitely use it that way. And then someone sends me a photo. The falling cats is a good example. I was like, yep, silhouetted cats falling in a thing. They'll do it like that. And someone had made one into like a tabby. One was like a Siamese cat. And I was like, not in a million years did I think you were ever going to do that. And it was, yeah, that was a joy to see.
Do you have that quilt to show? I love that one. That's one of the patterns I bought.
So that quilt was for my sister, and it was in honor of her cat called Bean. So she owns that. And
a lot of us do that. A lot of people, when we interview people for positions at the shop, we say, bring some things that you've made. And most of the time people say, I give away everything I make. So they don't have a lot of things to show.
Yeah, well, I have that one, and I have this one, which is one of the first hexagon piecing ones I did. And then I have this one, which is, I actually never wrote a pattern for this one. This was just one that, get it the right way up. This is one of my cats.
Oh, how fun is that? And all half square triangles. Looks like.
Yeah, I can't even tell you how many triangles there are.
Yeah.
But this is a year of my life in a quilt.
Well, that's lovely. And I'm so excited to have found you. What's your favorite pattern that you've ever made?
Oh, can I choose one? I mean, the cat one is an obvious one, and it is a favorite of quite a lot of people. I've got
be sure to link to that in this part of the YouTube video as well, so people can find it.
Oh, brilliant. I also like the crane one that I've got. I put that one actually on the same Reddit, and someone suggested that they could make a garland out of them.
Oh wow.
So I then went back and was like, that's a great idea, and I made 3 more, and they recently sent me
the picture.
They'd made like a banner with them, so that was great. I do think my favorite is going to have to be the balloon dog, though, because I'm so excited to see how
people interpret
it.
Yeah.
I've already gotten a message this morning actually saying that someone's going to do like a sparkly pink one.
Yeah, I have the pattern. I'm not sure what color I'm going to go with yet, but I love that there are shadows in it so that you can choose different values of the same color to get that rounded feel. We also link to that one because it's a super great one. I guess, is that your most recent one, the balloon dog?
I released a rubber duck the other day. So if that's something that,
because why not? I mean, why doesn't everyone need a rubber duck quilt? So I understand that this pattern designing business is not your day job.
Oh no, I wish. No, I work with data during the day. I would love it to be, one day, and if the scope is there, I'll definitely go for that. But for now, it's definitely a passion project, I think, and it's a really nice space where there's like no pressure of I don't have to design anything that day.
Right.
But if inspiration hits, I can go for it. And yeah, I think everyone needs that kind of space in their life somewhere.
And a creative outlet, especially
Yeah,
when you live in a box kind of a world.
very, yeah.
Having a creative outlet is definitely important. And I think a lot of people found during the pandemic that finding creativity again was really important for their own well-being and mental health. I know for us, our quilting world kind of exploded during the pandemic because people were cleaning closets and people had time and they wanted to reconnect with those things, the art type things that made them kind of feel more whole again.
Yeah, I completely agree. I started my Etsy. I think I posted it on the design for the koi pond the start of 2020, just as we were kind of stuff was starting to close down. And I was just so shocked by how many people were saying, where can I get this? Where can I get this? And I was like, what do you mean? You can't want this. Like, that's not what I meant. I was like, how can I make this better? Not, here it is.
Right.
I was so shocked. And I think it was that kind of encouragement of the quilting community that was like, no, we like it. I was like, oh,
we want it.
Yeah, I opened my shop that evening. I was like, great. And I only had that one pattern, and it's just slowly trickled up as I've gotten more confident and as I've found more people to gift them to.
Right. Well, and hopefully you'll find more people through our YouTube channel as well.
Absolutely.
What do you love about foundation piecing? I know a lot of quilters are completely terrified of foundation piecing, or they just don't even want to wrap their brains around it. But I love foundation piecing, and obviously you do too. What do you love about it?
I think, like I mentioned before, it's definitely that it's everything is possible. And also, I think people are scared by the learning curve, but don't understand that it's a very short curve. It's sharp, but it is very short, because once you learn that technique, it doesn't get harder if there's more pieces.
Right.
It just takes longer.
Right. But that's true for every quilt that has a lot of pieces.
Exactly. Right. So it never gets, it only gets easier.
Right.
And it's very much just your hands learn how to do it, and you just pop a podcast in, watch the TV, and you can just go for it. And the outcome of it is just, you could never get it another way.
Right. The two things I love about foundation piecing are that I don't have to pre-measure fabrics, because I feel like that sometimes is tedious, having to pre-measure and pre-cut. I usually just smack gigantic pieces of fabric on and then chop off what I don't need. And then I also love the precision you can get with tiny stems and tiny pointy points. That is really hard to replicate in traditional piecing. And you can make anything.
You can. I do like to challenge myself sometimes, and I'm like, I'm going to make this paper piecing out of scraps.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh.
And then when you pull out a couple of seams, you're like, we're not challenging anymore.
Yeah. I'll do like a few, and I'm like, that's enough challenge.
That was enough challenge for one day.
Yeah, that was enough.
So I wanted to know, just interested in knowing how the quilting industry differs in the UK, because quilting is traditionally an American craft, and that's sort of where quilting began. I mean, I know there's been textile craft all over the world forever, but we kind of claim quilting. So I was just wondering what you find in the UK, and who are the bulk of your Etsy customers?
That last question, definitely people from America. So you are my biggest fans, and I am the biggest fan of you. Definitely. It means I do stay up quite late so I can talk to you guys, but I wouldn't change that for the world. I think it definitely, from my point of view, because I learned from one person, and she is still the only other quilter I've ever met in person.
Oh.
And I don't know whether that says stuff about me or about quilting. But it is, I imagine it is very different. I definitely wouldn't call it an industry. We just don't have that history and that cultural connection, I think, to it, which is just so beautiful. I saw on the Reddit the other day that someone had found a quilt that was like 150 years old. Yeah, we have buildings that old, but nothing textile like that actually has like someone made that for someone and it was repaired and it was loved. I just think that's really beautiful. And I hope that some of the designs that I've made will be found by your guys' ancestors and that it will have been loved and repaired in that same way. I like being a part of that history.
That's a great dream.
Yeah. Even though I'm way across the pond, I can now start being a bit of that.
Yeah, thanks to the power of the internet. I mean, this wouldn't have been possible 30 years ago. We wouldn't have ever crossed paths, and you may not have ever quilted. So
yeah, probably.
It's a great world that we live in.
Yeah.
What are your dreams for Koi Pine Quilts? What would you like 10 years from now, if you could write the story, what would you be doing?
I think if it could grow to that level, I would love to be able to do it full time. I've really enjoyed doing, I do quite a lot of customs. Some you'll see pop up on the Etsy as I do them. Some of them I won't be putting on. It depends. And it depends. Some of them are so personal to the person. I would never
want to monetize.
Yeah, I want to monetize that. It feels, but some I will release, and I really enjoy those. It's that one-on-one relationship where you can bring their vision to life, which I really like, and I'd love to do that full time. I've set myself a small goal this year that I would like to release at least one pattern a month.
Oh, that's
so that would be nice. I mean, I've done I think 4 this month, so come back to me in May. But
so you get some time off. Time off for good behavior.
That's a small goal I have, but I think as a whole, I try to keep prices down to make it as accessible as possible, because it's not really about the shop. It's about getting people to try a technique that they otherwise wouldn't, because like you said, some people are terrified, and I'm trying to make it as fun and as interesting as possible, that you might dip your toe in and then you might fall in love with the technique like I have.
Right. Be addicted and have to buy 4 patterns like I did a week ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I totally haven't started any of, but I will. It's just, having them in the library.
I'm halfway through my own balloon dog.
Oh, it looks great.
I'm halfway through, but not yet finished, because
so there you go, everybody. That's what part of the balloon dog looks like.
Yeah, that's the front half.
With the little end of the balloon for the nose. It's so cute.
Yeah, I'll do is keep that later.
Let's see. Do you have any questions for me or for United States quilters?
I'm very interested in your portraits and how you started those, because you can tell that there's a lot of skill and care into them now. How did that just come about? Because
so I'm trying to think. I'm in a quilting bee of 8 women. Actually, I just came from bee right before we got on here. So that's why I was rushing, because I had to leave bee early. And we used to, not so much anymore, but we used to do annual challenges. So one year, our challenge, we called it Pieces of 8, where we took an image and split it into 8 pieces. And then each of us took an 1/8 of it and recreated it and then gave it back. And I don't have my Pieces of 8 quilt is actually in my shop, but it was fun to try to replicate what you saw in this little 1/8 of an image. And so that was sort of my first foray into that. And I loved, my result is a woman holding a baby, and people got different parts of the people. And so the skin color on the people changes throughout the pieces, which kind of makes it like every person kind of an image. And man, I was just totally sold. And then one year we did a self-portrait challenge in our B. And actually, I just took a picture of one of my self-portraits, which I don't know how well this will show because it's all glary, but there you can
Okay,
see.
yeah, I can see it.
So I made 8 of those, but I made them all in different colors. And when it lined up, it looked kind of like a Warhol painting.
Yeah, like
It was pretty fun. Let me shut the door. There's noise out there. And so once I did that, again, like you, I said, you know, I can, if I can do a picture of myself that looks like me, I can do anything, right? So then probably 8 years ago, there was an American Made Brands challenge. American Made Brands is one of the manufacturers of fabrics. And their challenge was to use only solid fabrics to make a quilt, only their fabrics. And so I made a quilt of my daughter, and she's got like a magenta arm and a purple leg. And I had no idea if it was going to work. And she ended up being exhibited at the International Quilt Festival in Houston, Texas that year. So that was really, I was like, oh, I can definitely do anything now because I've been at the quilt festival. So then after that, I just started using, they've pretty much all, until this past year, they've all been pictures of my own family members because it's just, you know, I don't have to get the rights to it and I know them really well. And one of my favorite parts of it is kind of going through the process. Like this is, I did one of my sons, and you know, I was working on his hand. I'm like, oh, I remember when he squished that finger in the door that one time, and I remember when he scraped up those knuckles, or when he got that little scar, you know. So for me, it's really therapeutic to do the portrait quilts of people I know. And now I'm in the process, like you said, of writing a book on the technique, and I didn't want the whole book to be full of my family, because I also wanted to explore, you know, different skin tones and different hair textures and things like that. So that one back there is just a purchased image of a little girl in a bathtub. That's going to be bubbles all around her head, like she's looking out from inside the bubbles. But it's just really fun, and it does take forever. It's basically collaging, so it's creating a pattern from the picture and then cutting out tiny pieces and sticking them on. So it's very, very detailed, much like your work. But I love the finished products. I mean, it's just absolutely one of my favorite things to do. So this weekend, I'm actually teaching a quilt retreat at our retreat on the lake. So I'll be there with 8 women teaching them the same thing with their own pictures. So that's what I'll be doing this weekend.
Maybe one weekend I'll join you.
Yeah, we'll see. Then you can come and meet a lot of quilters, and then you'll know all kinds of people.
Yeah, exactly. It's really interesting you talk about like the feelings behind quilts. I think when I'm choosing what design next, it is very much how you're feeling at the time. Like the Koi Pong quilt came out of, I had quite a turbulent time at work, so I quilted something very calm.
Yeah.
The Falling Cat quilt is the love I have for my sister. I guess the ramen is that I was hungry. Do you know what I mean? So, but it is. I don't mean to trivialize, but yeah, it is more than just. I think someone once called it arts and crafts. It is way more than that.
Yeah, we're not just quilting people. We're putting a lot of heart into what we're doing.
Exactly.
Tell me about one of the patterns I purchased from you is Game Over. Tell me how that came about, because I love it, and I love that from far away it looks blurry, and from close up you can totally see it all. It's great.
So I was heavy. So my partner cross-stitched. They cross-stitched it, and I fell in love with it, and I was just like, this is one of the best things I've seen, and I just had to recreate it basically.
So for every X cross stitch that turned into a square, is that how you did it?
That turned into a square.
Yeah. It's great. I have 3 sons that are all video gamers, so I'm planning to make it in one form or another for at least one of them.
At least. And then once one of them sees it, they'll.
Right, but it's all square, so it's not at all as hard as your other things. It should go very quickly.
Yes. Yeah, that is one of the. It was only when I was halfway through the balloon dog, I was like, I feel bad. This is very difficult. I forget how.
Well, I remember when I saw it on Reddit, I was like, wow, that's a billion million pieces, and I still want it.
Yeah. I have one out for pattern testing at the moment. Most of the time I pattern test myself if I can, but if I mean, some things are just above my skill level, or maybe patience. And I think the balloon dog has 34 sections. The one I've just sent out for pattern testing has 174.
Woo.
Yeah, so that will be a marathon, but I'm hoping to do kind of a quilt along with it, because it's like a zodiac. So
Oh, yeah.
you do the pieces just during that phase of the zodiac kind of thing.
Oh, that's fun.
So it's more of a like a year-long project made out of lots of tiny little ones than overwhelming someone kind of thing.
That's the best thing about quilt alongs and block of the months, is that it is kind of pieced up for you into chapters, so it doesn't feel like a gigantic task at the beginning. Well, if you ever need pattern testers, I know of several who would be happy to test for you, because that's something people love to do here, is get their hands on things before they're published.
Yeah, I've got like I actually think all of my pattern testers are in America. Yeah, you guys have a thirst that I don't think I'll ever be able to quench for patterns.
It's true. I mean, my shop is busy all the time. We do a very big business here, and my shop actually turns 10 years old tomorrow. So we have a big sale going on this coming weekend because of the birthday. So
that's amazing. Congratulations. That's a big achievement.
Thank you. Yeah, it keeps me extremely busy with all the different, all the different plates in the air, I like to call it. There's always something going on. But I'm glad I got this time to spend with you, because I really did want to kind of, see the person behind the patterns and pick your brain and figure out what it is that you love to do and how you do it. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It meant a lot.
Was there any other questions you had, or anything you wanted to say about yourself or your work before we go? Oh, you had mentioned a discount for our viewers?
Yes, I'll make sure to send you guys a discount. It will be 15% off anything in the shop, and I'll have that run for the whole of 2023.
Oh, wow. Great. Thanks. That's a big, long discount.
My pleasure.
Well, if you ever need, to pick the brain of an American quilter, I'm here for you. And if you're ever planning to come to the US, I would love to host you at the shop or the retreat, or both. So feel free to catch up with me later whenever you make plans to travel.
I definitely will. Thank you so much.
Have a great afternoon. I hope it gets warmer for you, or a great evening.
Yes.
I hope the weather turns for you soon.
Yeah, I think it stopped raining, so I think we're in luck.
Okay. Well, thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
Everybody, I will make sure to post all the links to Kayleigh's work and patterns on Etsy, so that you can go over there and see what she's all about. Thanks so much. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.